If you've been searching why people fail in myEcon, why some people join myEcon and do nothing, why people do not take action in myEcon, why people quit myEcon, or why myEcon does not work for some people, this video is going to be for you because this is one of the biggest things that people don't talk about honestly enough. A lot of people join myEcon and then do basically nothing, right? They sign up, they get access, they're excited, they're ready, they want change, but then nothing. No real action, no real learning, no real consistency, no follow through at all. Just a slow fade into inactivity. And then later, some of those same people act confused about why nothing is changing or nothing is working for them. That's the part that we need to talk about, right? Because the truth is, most people who do nothing after joining myEcon don't do nothing because they're evil or stupid or hopeless. They do nothing because something deeper is going on. And if you really want to understand why some people fail in myEcon, why some people never gain traction, why some people join but never move, you have to understand the psychology behind that behavior. So in this video, I want to break down the real reasons that some people join myEcon and do nothing, right? Not the sugar-coated version, the real one. So the first reason that some people join myEcon and do nothing is because they joined emotionally, not intelligently. And I would say this is probably the biggest one. A lot of people join things in an emotional state. They're frustrated, they're broke, they're discouraged, they're tired of their situation, they're inspired by somebody's confidence, they're scared of missing out, or they're desperate for a change. And all of that emotion pushes them into a direction. But emotion is not the same as commitment, all right? And that matters because in the moment, emotion can make people feel serious. But when the emotional spike wears off, what are you left with? That's where the truth shows up. If somebody joined because they were emotionally overwhelmed, but they never slowed down enough to build real clarity, real expectations, and a real plan, then once the feeling fades, action usually fades too. And that happens all the time. It's not just a myEcon thing, it's a people thing. Emotion gets people in the door. Clarity and discipline are what keep people moving, right? Without those, people stall fast. And then the second reason that some people join myEcon and do nothing is they want change, but they don't actually want responsibility, right? This is a big one. I mean, a lot of people say they want better finances, better results, better opportunities, or better direction, better outcomes. But what they really want is relief. And relief is not the same thing as responsibility, right? They want the feeling of hope. People want the feeling of possibility. They want the feeling that maybe their life is going to improve. But when improvement starts requiring action, consistency, learning, and honesty, and better habits, that's when a lot of people disappear. Because now it's not just about wanting more. Now it's about becoming more disciplined. And that's where people get exposed. A lot of people love the idea of change, but very few love the process that creates it. That's why some people join myEcon and do nothing. Not because they hated the idea of results, but they weren't actually ready for the responsibility that real improvements require, right? The third reason that some people join myEcon and do nothing is because they were looking for a rescue, not a process. And this one ties in closely with the last point, right? But this deserves its own section. Some people don't join myEcon because they want to build something real, use something real, or improve something real. They join because they're hoping it will save them from their money pressure, save them from confusion, save them from their bad habits, their lack of direction, save them from having to think hard, save them from their current situation. That's rescue thinking. And rescue thinking is dangerous because the second people realize there is no magic button, they lose energy. The second they realize they still have to learn, apply, think, and participate, they start drifting. Why? Because they were not looking for a process. They were looking for a lifeline. And anything that involves real value still usually requires the person to meet it halfway. That's why rescue-minded people will stall. They were never mentally prepared for a process. The fourth reason that some people join myEcon and do nothing, they don't really understand what they joined, right? And this happens constantly. Somebody hears excitement, they hear possibilities, they hear certain buzzwords, they hear partial explanations. They get sold on a feeling, but they never really got clear on what myEcon actually is, what myEcon's products actually do, what lane they are interested in, what actions they should be taking, what results they are actually pursuing. And that's a problem because confusion kills movement. If somebody's unclear, they hesitate. If they hesitate long enough, they disconnect. If they disconnect long enough, they do nothing. And the worst part is sometimes people will not admit that they are confused, right? They'll pretend like they get it. They'll act like they understand, but they'll stay quiet. They'll avoid asking questions. Then the confusion hardens into inaction. And that happens all the time. One of the fastest ways for people to do nothing is for them to join something they never really understood in the first place. The fifth reason that some people join myEcon and do nothing, they're addicted to starting and not building. This is the shiny object chasers, the project jumpers, right? And it's a brutal one because some people love the beginning of things. They love the excitement, the possibility, the fresh start. They love the story they tell themselves when they first join something, but they are not builders. They are starters. And there's a huge difference. Starters collect beginnings. Builders create results. Starters chase the emotional high of maybe this is it. Builders stay around long enough to get clear, get better, get stronger, get traction. So when a starter joins myEcon, they feel alive for a minute. Then the newness wears off, right? And once the newness wears off, they lose interest because now the real work starts. And that's why some people bounce from thing to thing forever. Not because nothing ever had value, because they're hooked on beginnings and allergic to follow through, right? That pattern destroys people. And then sixth reason that people join myEcon and do nothing, they're scared of being seen trying, right? This is a huge psychological one. A lot of people talk about wanting better, but deep down, they're terrified of visibility, right? Terrified of judgment, terrified of looking foolish, asking questions. They're terrified of trying and not being good at it right away. Terrified of people watching them attempt something and stumble. So instead of moving awkwardly and improving, they stay still, right? Because staying still feels safer than being seen struggling. That fear is strong. It keeps people from posting. It keeps people from asking. It keeps people from learning out loud. It keeps people from taking visible action. And when that fear is stronger than their desire to improve, they end up doing nothing. Not because they didn't want results, because they wanted emotional safety more. That's real. And then the seventh reason that some people join myEcon and do nothing, they expect clarity before movement instead of moving towards clarity. This is subtle, but it's powerful, right? A lot of people think they need to feel 100% ready before they start taking action. They want total understanding first, total confidence first, total certainty first, total comfort first. That almost never happens. Real people usually get clearer by moving. They get better by doing. They get stronger by participating. They get more confident through repetition. But people who sit around waiting to feel perfectly ready usually just stay frozen, right? They tell themselves they are thinking, they are processing. They tell themselves they're waiting until the timing is better. What they are really doing is avoiding discomfort. And avoiding disguised as patience is still avoidance, right? That is why some people join myEcon and do nothing. They're waiting for a feeling that action was supposed to create. And then the eighth reason that some people join myEcon and do nothing, they have weak self-trust. And this one is another deep one, right? A lot of people have disappointed themselves so many times that they no longer trust their own ability to follow through. They say they want something, but deep down, they don't believe they will stay with it. They say they're ready, but deep down, they have a history of quitting, right? They say this time is going to be different, but deep down, they're carrying old failure patterns into a new opportunity. That weak self-trust matters because even when people get access to something useful, if they don't trust themselves to be consistent, courageous, disciplined, or patient, they will sabotage their own start before they even get going, right? They pull back, they delay, they overthink, they hesitate, they disappear because doing nothing feels less painful than proving to themselves again that they did not follow through. That is a painful truth, but it's real. And then another reason that some people join myEcon and do nothing, they're overwhelmed by life and have no structure. This one is important too because Not every inactive person is lazy. Some people are drowning. Their schedule is a mess. Their finances are a mess. Their emotions are a mess. Their routines are weak. And that makes their energy low. That makes their life feel chaotic. And when somebody already lives in chaos, even something valuable can get burned under the weight of everything else they're dealing with. That doesn't mean that they don't care. It means they have no structure. And without structure, good intentions die fast. That's why people need to stop pretending that desire alone is enough. It's not enough. If a person has no rhythm, no system, no time boundaries, no planning, no intentional space for improvement, they're very likely to stay stuck no matter what they join. That's not just about myEcon, that's about life, right? And then the last reason that I think some people join myEcon and do nothing is they blame external things faster than they examine themselves, right? This is another, they're all big. These are all big reasons because some people join something and the second action feels uncomfortable, they immediately start looking outside themselves, right? Maybe it's the company, maybe it's the sponsor, maybe it's the system, the timing or the market or the training, maybe it's the platform. And yeah, sometimes external factors matter, but a lot of times the deeper problem is simpler, right? You didn't move. They didn't ask. They didn't apply. They didn't stay with it. They didn't get honest, right? They did not build any momentum. And that's hard for people to admit because self-reflection is uncomfortable. Blame feels easier. And people who choose blame over self-examination stay stuck because blame gives you a story, but self-awareness is what gives you a path forward. That's the difference. All right, now let me talk about why this topic matters so much, because if you don't understand why people join myEcon and do nothing, you're gonna misread the whole situation. You'll assume inactivity means there's no value. You'll assume that failure means the thing itself is broken. And you'll assume that silence means people did not care. That's not always true. Sometimes people freeze, right? They overthink, they join emotionally, they want rescue. They're afraid of being seen. They're addicted to starting things. They're carrying years of weak self-trust and chaotic habits into something new, right? Those matter because once you understand that, the question changes. Now the question isn't just why did they do nothing? Now the question becomes what was going on inside them that made doing nothing feel easier than doing something? That's the real question. Honestly, that is a much more useful one because now we're not just judging behavior. Now we're understanding it. So let me answer this directly. Why do some people join myEcon and do nothing? Because they joined emotionally instead of intelligently, right? They wanted change without responsibility. They were looking for rescue, not a process. They did not really understand what they were joining. They're addicted to starting instead of building because they're scared of being seen, because they wait for certainty instead of movement toward clarity, because they have weak self-trust, because life, chaos, and lack of structure bury their good intentions, and because blame feels easier than self-examination. Blame feels easier than self-examination. That's the real answer. And once people see that clearly, they can stop making the mistake of thinking inactivity is always about the company. A lot of times inactivity is about the person. And that may sound harsh, but it's also meant to be empowering because if the problem is in the person, then growth is possible. You can do something about it. You can change that. Improvement is possible, right? Better structure is possible. Better mindset is possible. Follow through is possible. And that's good news. So if you're somebody who joined myEcon or are thinking about joining myEcon and you don't want to become one of the people who fade into inactivity, ask yourself better questions. Why am I really here? Am I looking for rescue or am I ready for a process? Do I understand what I joined? Am I willing to be seen learning? Am I willing to move before I feel perfect? Am I building or am I just chasing another beginning? And those are the questions that really matter, right? So if this video helped you, hit that subscribe button for me, hit that like button for me, because I'm building this playlist that this video is in to break down myEcon in a real world, no BS way to answer the questions that people are actually searching for, right? So drop your thoughts on this in the comments. Why do you think so many people join things like myEcon and then do nothing? That is a conversation I would like to have. All right. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.